welcome back and happy new year. Today I'm filming my first video of the year and it's pouring rain, but I have a job to do, so I'm here and it's not gonna stop me. I'm hoping it kind of adds to the ambiance rather than destroying the audio, so we're gonna see how this all plays out, but I hope it ends well. Okay, so I'm really excited about today's video. I've been waiting to film this. I'm recapping, reviewing, rating all of the books that I read in 2022. This is a release for me because I get to just sit and talk about all of my emotions and feelings while reading these books. I'm going to share my rating and a brief summary. There won't be any spoilers. I think this is going to be long, so let's go ahead and get started. If you guys want to hear all about the books that I read last year, please keep watching. So it'd be really fun to hear from you guys if it's on your resolutions for this year to get into reading or to read a certain amount of books. I would love to hear what your goals are, and if you just, you want to read a few books this year, that's great. Not many people read at all like me 3 or 4 years ago. I probably hadn't read one book since high school, and even in high school, like, I skimmed that shit, okay? So I barely read, but it's become such a nice way to relax and just escape for me. It's my favorite thing ever. And in 2022, I'm not gonna miss saying that, by the way, that's like a mouthful, 2022. I read 25 books. The year before I did, I think 14, which I'm like, girl, you couldn't just do 15, like you had to stick at 14, but it's fine. And this year, I think my goal is gonna be 30 books. And then if I read more than that, that's fantastic. So I'm on Goodreads, kind of like social media for reading. You can see what I'm reading, you can see what I've read, you can check out things that I wanna read. My to read shelf grows every week, and it's great because I'm never gonna be out of ideas on what to read next. And I also like it because you can set a goal for yourself. So that's where I set my 30 book goal for 2023. I will link my profile below. We can become friends on there. You can see what I'm reading. I can see what you're reading. It's really fun. And I do want to say this also before I get into the books. I'm sorry, I'm talking your ear off. I do have a book club. I'm just going to link it below if you guys want to join. It's via Instagram DM. We read one book a month, and it's kind of just a way to keep yourself accountable to read at least one book every month this year. And obviously you don't have to do every month, just whatever you can pick it up. So if you're interested in joining, just message me or click the link below. It's going to be an invite link, which I've never done before, so hopefully it works out. If not, you can just DM me on Instagram. All that is going to be linked below. So I don't have physical books that I'm going to show you guys because I read from my Kindle, which is my favorite thing on this planet. I have talked about why I love my Kindle so many times, but just to keep it short and sweet, for some reason, I feel like I read so much more on this. I'm more inclined to pick it up. I'm more inclined to bring it with me when I go places. I read in the dark because it has a lit screen. It doesn't emit blue light, so it doesn't strain your eyes, so I could be on it all day long and I won't get a headache like I will if I'm on my phone all day or on my computer. It's just the best, and there's so many other reasons why, but I'll let you guys find out for yourself because I'm gonna link it below for you if you want to pick it up. I'm a Kindle girly through and through, and I have never looked back, and you won't regret it. I know people like a physical book, but I'm telling you, the Kindle's great. Don't knock it till you try it. Starting all the way at the beginning of 2022, the first book that I read was November 9 by Colleen Hoover. And this is actually one of my favorite Colleen Hoover books. I read only a few this year, I think maybe 3 or 4, compared to the prior years, like when I discovered her and I read so many books by her. And I've kind of broadened my horizons a little bit, but I'm still a big fan of a lot of her books. And I'm not gonna knock them at all. So November 9, I gave it 5 stars, and I was obsessed. I love the characters. It's basically like an unconventional love story, which is what most of her books are. Romance is always involved, but there's always like this one thread that's like really twisted and weird, or like something crazy happens that you don't see coming. So that's what this book is. The main character, Fallon, meets Ben on her last day in LA before she's supposed to move cross country. They spend the whole day together. They have this instant connection. They don't really know why, but they're really drawn to each other. And they decide, since she's moving, that they're gonna meet up once a year on that same date every single year. The concept is interesting because it's fun to see the way their life changes year after year. But the one thing that remains the same is their connection to each other. It's full of twists, turns, love, heartbreak. I'm not gonna say too much, but it is really, really good and one of my favorites by her. Next up is Every Last Secret by A.R. Torrey, and I also gave this 5 stars. I had a good start to the year with books last year. I think my first 4 or 5 books are all 5 stars. I also think I've gotten more critical as time has gone on with my stars, and I'm not as generous. I used to be really generous, like everything, had 4 or 5 stars if I liked it. But this one was really good, mainly because I read it so quickly, like it just hooked me in instantly. It reminded me of The Last Mrs. Parrish. If you guys have read that, that was one of the first books that got me into reading, so I always look back at that fondly because it's so interesting. It's a psychological thriller about a couple that lives this fabulous life until this woman comes in and tries to destroy it. You don't really know her motive, you don't know what's happening. That literally sounds like the plot to Last Miss Parrish. It's very similar. similar, but there are differences obviously. You become instantly hooked because you need to know what her motives are and why she's doing what she's doing and how it's all going to turn out. So that's basically the gist of it. I think if you like psychological thrillers with romance and like steaminess and stuff like that, you will like it. So pick it up, 5 stars, read it in I think a day, and I was up all night reading it because I needed to know what was going to happen. So it's really good. Next book is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and I do believe this was our January book for my book club. I give it 5 stars. This book stuck with me so much, and I have recommended it to a few friends and family. So Nora, the protagonist of the story, is down on her luck. She's not happy where her life is. She's feeling, you know, sad and depressed, and trigger warning, she decides that she wants to end her life. So she makes an attempt to do so, and in between life and death in this book, there is a library. The library is filled with an endless amount of books, and every single book on the shelf is a different chance at a different life. So it's kind of a way that she could look at, what if I have done this differently? What if I have lived this life? What if I have took this path? How would my life be? So it takes you through all of these different lives, and it's interesting to see just how one decision can really change everything. It's really a book about self-discovery, and it makes you kind of think about your own life. I personally really loved it, and it left an imprint on me, so I would recommend it to you guys. 5 stars for sure. Next book is another Colleen Hoover. This was a new release at the beginning of last year, and a lot of people were talking about it, so of course I had to pick it up. This is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I gave it 5 stars. This I thought was a bit different from her normal books. I kind of went into it expecting one thing and came out with something completely different, which is what I do often. I'm not sure if you guys do the same, but I honestly go into books completely blind. It honestly makes for an interesting reading experience because I don't know what's gonna happen next, so it's really exciting. But this one I really loved, and it was a bit deeper and darker than her normal stories, which I think is why I like it, because I think it had just like a lot of heart to it. It's an amazing redemption story about a young mom who is released from prison after serving 5 years for a tragic accident. She had her daughter the first year she was in prison, so she has really not spent any time with her daughter. She's 4 years old, and she really knows nothing about her life, so she's trying to rebuild her life and prove that she's worthy of having a relationship with her daughter. So it's heartbreaking, and there's also some love involved, of course. Colleen Hoover's always got to sneak the romance in. I definitely cried a few times, which is always the mark of an amazing book for me, because if I'm emotionally invested to the point where I'm tearing up and crying, you know, you got me. So I really liked it, and I gave it 5 stars. It was really good. Next up, Beach Read by Emily Henry. I do think I was generous with my rating on this one. I give it 4 stars, and I did enjoy it, but I don't know about 4 stars, you know, like maybe 3.5. I do wish on Goodreads that you could do like a 0.5 rating, because sometimes I don't want to give it the full 4 and I don't want to give it the full 5, but you know, I don't know. But I gave it 4 stars, back in February when I read this, I believe. So it's a story about a romance author with severe writer's block because she's kind of just had her whole world shattered, and everything she knew about love was just completely wrong. So she no longer believes in it, but she's supposed to be this like hopeless romantic. So now she's having a really hard time writing her next book, and she decides that she's gonna hunker down at a lake house and she's gonna write her story, and she's gonna figure it out. And then right across the way from where she's living, there is another author who she went to school with, and now he's a really big success, a very serious literary author who is basically the antithesis of the kind of author that she is. They're both kind of hitting a wall with their work, so they decide to strike up a deal and write each other's genres for a change. So she's gonna write literary fiction and he's gonna write romance. So it's a bit of an exercise for them to get out of their rut and for them also to spend some time together. There's also an element to it that I think I related to on a more personal level, because the main character lost her mom to a battle with cancer, and I find whenever the character has faced some type of adversity like that, with dealing with a sick loved one, I always relate on a deeper level, and I see myself in the story. So that I think is maybe where the 4 stars came in. I did like it. It was cute, easy read. Moving on. So I still wanted to stick with my romance theme. I feel like whenever I get into a book, I kind of want to stay on that same wave for a little bit. So the next one that I read was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey, and this is the sequel to It Happened One Summer, which I loved. That was one of my first like steamy rom-coms that I read, and I so enjoyed it. It was so cute. I loved the setting. It was great. So I was really excited when the sequel was coming out. I think I read it right when it was released. I gave it 3 stars because I honestly didn't enjoy it that much. It was readable and it was cute and it was easy, but nowhere near It Happened One Summer. It was definitely like, I feel like she kind of struck gold with that one, and then she tried to follow it up with something as good, and it fell a little bit flat. It's just kind of a basic rom-com. It's about her sister, Poppy from the first book. I don't even remember this main character's name, to be honest with you, because that's kind of how insignificant it was to me. It was okay, you know? It was like a bit cheesier than the first one. The first one's definitely cheesy. Like these rom-coms, they all have a cheesy element to them. You expect it, it kind of comes with the territory, but I was cringing a few moments in this book, and I think the fatal flaw was that the main character kind of sucks, to be honest. Like her only personality trait was like liking music. It's like, girl, that can't be the only thing you are into, and that can't be your whole personality. Like it was far too much. So still cute, but you know, 3 stars. Next one was our March book club pick, and this definitely had mixed reviews. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I gave it 2 stars. I think I have one more 2-star book, or I don't know. It's one of the lowest rating books of the year for me. I did not enjoy it at all. The setting was nice, very like Rhode Island, East Coast beach kind of vibe, but I didn't like it. So I'm just going to read the excerpt to you because I don't think I'm going to do the story justice because I did not enjoy it. A beautiful and distinguished family, a private island, a brilliant damaged girl, a passionate political boy. A group of 4 friends, the liars, whose friendship turns destructive, a revolution, an accident, a secret, lies upon lies, true love, the truth. We Were Liars is a modern, sophisticated suspense novel from New York Times bestselling author, National Book Award finalist, and Prince Award honoree E. Lockhart. If anyone asks you how it ends, just lie. Okay, that last line was pretty cute, but didn't do it for me whatsoever, so moving on. Next book was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I gave this one 3 stars, and I do think that might be a little bit controversial amongst Colleen Hoover fans. I just honestly wasn't like in the space for this book. I wanted something lighthearted and easy to read, like, you know, romance or something. And this did have romance, but it was a bit sadder than I was in the mood for. Like, just goes to show you how personal books are, because the reason I liked Reminders of Him is because it was kind of sad and deep, but then this one, I wanted something light, and then I'm annoyed that it's sad and deep. So, you know, it just really depends on your mood and where you are in your life. So I just wasn't in the mood for something sad, and this was a bit sadder. So Tate meets emotionally unavailable Miles, who is a pilot. They kind of start, you know, a friends with benefits kind of situation because neither of them are interested in having a relationship. And of course things get complicated like they always do. And it gets a little bit dark because you obviously discover why Miles is emotionally unavailable, what happened to him in his past, and you know, all that and everything in between. Like I said, books are personal, and I just wasn't in the place for this book, and that's the main reason why I didn't really enjoy it. Moving on to the next one, One Italian Summer, 5 freaking stars. I love this book. This is by Rebecca Searle. This was my first introduction to her writing. I loved this so much. So I read this during a really hard time for me, and it was honestly such an escape. Like the setting of the Amalfi Coast and just the whole aesthetic of the book really transported me, and it honestly got me through the time I was going through, because it was when I lost my sweet Ellie girl. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, in the summertime I had to say goodbye to my sweet dog, and I think I literally picked this up the day that we had to put her to sleep, because I just needed something to distract me, and I really enjoyed it. This is another book kind of about self-discovery, but also about a mother and daughter bond and the kind of heartbreak that comes after you lose your mom, which, hello, that's why I related to it so much. So Carol, the mom, she always speaks of her summer that she spent in Positano. So her and her daughter Katie, they decide they're going to plan a mother-daughter trip, and they're going to go see all the things that Carol has been talking about for so many years, and Katie's going to get to, you know, kind of get a peek into her mom's life before she was born. Unfortunately, Carol gets sick and she passes away before the trip, and Katie's having an extremely hard time because her mom was her best friend, her world, her everything, and she decides she's still going to go on this trip. It has a really, really cool twist that I think a lot of people would enjoy reading, and it just makes for an amazing story. But also the setting of the book is so perfect for summer. I mean, it's literally in the title, like One Italian Summer, but I felt like I was transported to the Amalfi Coast in Positano. It was everything, and I guess it's also inspired by a real hotel, so that's really cool. I gotta go visit one day, but yeah, I gave that 5 stars. I think it's absolutely incredible and one of my favorite books that I've ever read. Next up, we have a People We Meet on Vacation, 3 stars. I thought I was like starting my, you know, summer reads. I wanted to do like a lot of lighthearted, easy romance reads, fun settings, fun locations, just, you know, summer aesthetics. And the title of People We Meet on Vacation, I really thought that's what I was gonna get, and instead it was, you know, not that. it wasn't great, okay? I gave it 3 stars, and I do think that was being generous. I did not enjoy this book. I feel like towards the end, I was starting to get more invested, and I liked the ending, and that's kind of, I guess, what made me give it an extra star rather than just 2. Sometimes I feel like 2 stars is too aggressive. That's the problem here. Like, sometimes it's like, okay, chill with the 2 stars. Like, I'll give it 3, okay? So, I don't know. It's a story about a guy and a girl, don't even remember their names, that are lifelong friends, and, you know, of course, start to realize maybe there's some feelings there. And she's kind of a travel blogger of some sort, I think. And they go on this trip every year. They kind of had a falling out, but they decide they're gonna have like a last-ditch effort to save their friendship, and they're gonna go on a trip just like they always do and try to pretend like things are normal. They're not, obviously, and the trip is like a disaster, and they go to Palm Springs, and it makes Palm Springs sound like the worst place ever. So I just need you guys to know, if you've never been and you're reading this book and you're thinking like, wow, I'm not going to Palm Springs, go still. It's a great place, and they did it so dirty in this book. But yeah, 3 stars. Moving on. I don't want to spend too much time on books that I didn't even enjoy. All right, we have an amazing one. Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This is her debut book. It was amazing. I give it 5 stars. I was obsessed, and I think maybe also I needed a bit of a palate cleanser after my last book that I didn't enjoy. Every Summer After, I could not recommend it more for you guys to read in the summer. If you're going on a vacation, by the pool, on the beach, just hanging out, like relaxing, it's awesome. So this is a coming-of-age love story set in northern Canada at a lake house. It is almost identical to The Summer I Turned Pretty. I read that in a few books. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the story of like the love triangle, you know, dynamic of like the girl with the 2 guys and trying to figure out which one she likes. They're young. It's complicated. But this one's interesting because it's told over the course of 6 different summers, and it goes from past to present. So you see her as an adult and where her life has ended up, and then you go back to when she was young, and it leads up to, you know, something that happened that caused a falling out, and now she's trying to fix it and mend it. So it's really interesting and just the best summer read. I can't recommend it more. It's amazing. Next book, Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I gave this 3 stars, and I was kind of surprised by it because I feel like I hear people rave about Lucy Score a lot, and it is pretty similar to Tessa Bailey and It Happened One Summer. It's, you know, a cringy, cheesy love story. If you can suspend disbelief for a little bit, you'll enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars only because of how extremely long it was. I felt like it was so unnecessary for an easy read rom-com to be over 600 pages. Like, what? Like, no, okay? It could have easily been like 300, to be honest, but it was, you know, it was enjoyable. It was like a cheesy love story. It's like grumpy sunshine trope. Sweetheart angel girl falls for emotionally unavailable grumpy guy, and then, you know, I don't know. You'll see what happens if you read it. It's cute, but cheesy, you know. It is a spicy book, which I think maybe why people talk about it a lot because of the smut aspect, similar to It Happened One Summer. So, but I gave it 3 stars. And then next up, The Summer I Turned Pretty. I gave it 4 stars. I did really enjoy this. It was around the time the show was coming out, and everybody was watching it. I feel like every time I went on social media, I would see posts on people's story of starting it or watching it, raving about it, whatever. And I was like, I want to read the book first. I love when I have the opportunity to do that, and it's summertime. It's like the perfect time. I get to read it, and then I can sit and relax and watch the show, and it's just going to be really fun. So I was really glad that I did that because now I'm going to read the rest of them kind of, I think, as the series comes out, and it's kind of interesting to compare what they choose to do on the show and what they choose to change compared to the book. So I really liked it. The book is definitely better. I mean, that's always the case. The book is always better, but the show was really incredible, and I did really, really like it. It was so cute and just a fun, easy watch that I would definitely recommend. Same for the book. It was an easy read, a cute romance, like summer, coming of age, love triangle kind of story. It was adorable. Next book is, I think, the last Colleen Hoover book I read in 2022. This is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. I give it 4 stars. I read this, I think, again in a matter of days because I'm like, what is happening? This was an emotional roller coaster that I did not expect at all. Again, I went in blind. I had no idea what it was about, and then every chapter, like, something kept happening. I was like, what? I had no idea that all of these tragic events were going to happen, and I was shocked. So one of the protagonists, Morgan, had her daughter Clara when she was 16 years old, and now Clara herself is 16, and Morgan is trying to find new purpose in her life because her whole identity has been being a mother the last 16 years. She became a mom young, and it became who she was, and she kind of lost herself and didn't get to have that time to discover who she really is. Every other chapter it shifts POVs, so you hear from Clara and then you also hear from her mom, Morgan. But the story takes an insane turn when Clara's dad, also Morgan's husband, gets into a tragic accident and dies. And then things just start coming out, skeletons start coming out of the closet, and it just gets crazier and crazier, and I'm like, what? Like, I can't. So that's all I'm gonna say, but it's definitely interesting. If you're looking for something quick and easy to read that's gonna captivate you, pick it up. It's a good Colleen Hoover book. Next book is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I gave this 3 stars only because I just thought it was okay. I, again, was on my easy read summer vibes kind of tip for the summertime, and I thought that was going to be this, and it was. It was definitely an easy read. I read it really quick, and it was a cute setting. They go to Hawaii, and it's like, it's cute. I just really wasn't connected to the characters. It could have used some spice, if I'm honest. Like, maybe that would have took it up a notch, because I do think it was just kind of like, it was a little bit PG for like the storyline. Like, it could have been a little bit spicier, you know? I don't know. It's an easy read. It was summery, and that's fine. 3 stars. Next up is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I love this book and I give it 5 stars. I was hooked from the first page. I was like, what's gonna happen? I need to find out. I had to keep reading, and I really, really loved it. And I'm really excited because it is being turned into a show. I think they just wrapped filming, so hopefully it comes out soon. These things always take so long. But this, they actually already filmed and they wrapped, and it's gonna be on Apple TV Plus, so hopefully it comes out soon. And the casting is on point. They casted Jennifer Gardner as the main character, which I could not have done a better job myself. And then Jamie Lannister is playing her husband. Nikolai, I think his name is. I'm sorry. He's Jamie Lannister to me forever and always. He is in it as well, and it's perfect. Like, chef's kiss. They did a great job. This is a psychological thriller mystery kind of story. It's always great if you're looking to be entertained. I couldn't put it down. So Hannah Hall is newly married to Owen Michaels. She's trying to navigate married life as well as becoming a stepmother for the first time. Owen has a teenage daughter named Bailey. She isn't really interested in having a stepmom. She lost her mom when she was young, so she is kind of having a hard time adjusting to her dad being married. So they're kind of butting heads, and they're having a hard time trying to bond. And then one day Owen goes missing. He's just gone. He leaves a note, and all it says is protect her. Of course, things start coming out. The company he works for is under investigation. Everything's falling apart. Anna is just trying to put the pieces together and figure out where the hell her husband is and why he left her with this note. It's a good book for TV. I think it's going to come across great on a screen, so I'm excited. Next book, we have another 5 stars, and if I could have given this more than 5 stars, I would have, because I am obsessed. I could not stop talking about this book when I read it. I was like telling everyone I knew about it. I was like telling Marcus the whole plot and everything, and I was just like, I'm in love. I was fully in it. So this book is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was a new release from her, I think in the summertime around then, and it was actually during the time the US Open was going on, which was extremely fitting because this book is about a tennis player, so it was really cool to be reading this like during the time everybody was watching tennis. And I honestly was a little bit late. I think I started reading this like right when tennis was ending, so I'm like, dang it, I wish I would have picked it up sooner, so I would have been invested and interested in watching all of these matches. I watched some with Marcus, but it would have been even better if I had been reading this book, because I'm like, I know all the terms now. I'm like on my shit. I know what's up. But I am obsessed with this book. Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of my favorite authors. She is just incredible. Her storytelling is just next level. We read this in my book club, and one of the girls, actually, I think it was Sandra, if you're watching this, hi. I believe her words were, I would read a phone book if Taylor Jenkins Reid wrote it, because that's just like how good her writing is. She makes everything interesting. Like, you're just trapped in the pages, and it's so good. But let me tell you a little bit what the story's about. Carrie Soto was a highly decorated, world-renowned, retired tennis player who has decided to come out of retirement to reclaim her Grand Slam record. There's a new girl on the scene who's about to break her record, and that is not about to happen on Carrie Soto's watch. She is a beast, and it made me just have like a whole new appreciation for athletes and what they put their bodies through and the mental pressure they put on themselves. Like, it really is insane. I honestly didn't think I would enjoy reading a book about tennis. Like, it's like how I just didn't think that was gonna be interesting. And then I was literally hanging on every single word for every one of her matches. I was like, oh, I was following it. Like, I was just so into it. So it's just a great sports triumphant story, and I highly recommend it. It was so relevant too, because not only was it the US Open, but it was during the time Serena Williams was playing her last match. and it was just so cool. So I highly recommend it. I honestly think anybody would love this book. Taylor Jenkins Reid, you are that bitch, okay? And I do have one more from her that I read right after, because this had been on my list for a while, and I needed to read it. Everyone raves about it. So this one is Daisy Jones and the Six. I give it 4 stars, and I loved it. It was an amazing, amazing book. But now stepping back and looking at it at a glance, it definitely deserves 5 stars. It's an incredible book. So this is a story about a 70s rock band, and I have heard that it's heavily inspired by Fleetwood Mac. I think that's true. I hope it is, because it makes it really interesting. So it's about a 70s rock band and their journey skyrocketing to stardom, and also revealing the mystery behind their infamous breakup. This whole book is done kind of interview style, which I wasn't sure what I was gonna think, but I did actually really enjoy it. It made for a really interesting story because you got to hear from every single member of the band. It's fun to get a peek into all of the rock star dynamics and kind of behind the scenes of what it's like to be a superstar like that and just the life that they live. It's obviously fictional, but you guys know what I mean. It's really interesting to get a peek into that world. And it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, so you can't go wrong. It's also getting turned into a show. It is filmed, wrapped, and releasing. I think it comes out this month or maybe next. I'm really, really excited for it, because I do think, like I said, the book is always better. That's what we always say. But I do think this is going to be great TV because of the musical element. I'm excited to see like the rock stars rock out and actually hear the songs, because there is original music in this book, and it's just so, so cool. So I think it's going to play really well, and I'm very excited. I have high hopes. So I will be watching for sure, and I definitely recommend reading it before the show comes out, so you can have a bit of the backstory and just be a part of it. It's really cool. So that's a great one. Next up is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I gave this 3 stars, although I think I was being a bit critical because I did enjoy this book. I think this is when I started to get a little stingy with my stars. Like I mentioned, the beginning of the year, I'm like 5 stars for everybody, 4 stars. And now I'm like 3 stars. You get 3 stars, okay? But I did enjoy it. It's good. I do think I would recommend it to a lot of people because it's one of those, you know, page turner, psychological thriller, what happened, who done it, and you want to keep reading. So the main character, Chloe, when she was 12, 6 teenage girls went missing in her town, and it was just kind of this traumatic thing that really scarred the town, and everyone was on edge and no one knew what to do, and the killer wasn't getting caught until her own dad was arrested for the kidnapping and murders of these teenage girls. So this left her with unbelievable trauma, unbelievable trust issues. And you fast forward 20 years, her dad is still in prison. She's just trying to navigate adult life and live happily until seemingly out of nowhere, a local teenage girl goes missing. And it feels eerily similar to what happened when she was younger. And then another girl goes missing, and another girl. And she becomes very paranoid after seeing the parallels of what happened in her childhood. And she's taken it upon herself to unmask the killer. So it was pretty good. My 3 stars was a bit aggressive, but I liked it. And it was also one of the top books of the year on Goodreads for mystery fiction, I believe. And so the people loved it. And I did just hear too, it was opted for a limited series on HBO Max by Emma Stone. So consider my interest peaked. I will definitely be watching. I think it'll be a great TV show. Next up, we have A Court of Thorn and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I am obsessed. I'm actually currently reading book 2, and I'm not okay, you guys. Like, I am in love with this series, and I give it 5 freaking stars because it's so damn good. So it's fantasy fiction. I honestly wouldn't recommend it to everybody because I do think it's a certain type of reader. I do really enjoy fantasy, even though this is my first fantasy book in my whole year recap. But it is something I watch frequently. I love fantasy movies and shows. It's like one of my favorite genres. So I do want to start reading more of it, but I had seen a lot of people recommend this and talk about it. So I had to pick it up. It was my 20th book of the year, and it came in with a bang. I was obsessed. So it's a fantasy romance fiction. I'm going to read you guys the description because I feel like I will not do it justice explaining it, and it can get a bit confusing when you're like talking about all these, you know, fantasy terms and like this whole world this author has built. I don't want to, you know, get anyone confused. So I'm just going to read the description. So when 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a beast-like creature arrives to demand retribution for it. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she only knows about from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not an animal, but Tamlin, one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled over her world. As she dwells on his estate, her feelings for Tamlin transform from icy hostility into fiery passion that burns through every lie and warning she's been told about the beautiful, dangerous world of the Fae. But an ancient, wicked shadow grows over the fairy land, plans. Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. I think I'm so excited about it too because it's the start of this journey for me that I'm going to be on reading this whole series. I did hear that the rights to the book have been purchased by the same showrunner as Outlander. Outlander is an amazing book adaptation TV show, historical fiction mixed with fantasy. It's incredible. I love that show so much. It's one of my favorites. And I'm really excited that the showrunner picked up this book because I think if anyone's going to do it justice, it's someone that has experience with this kind of thing. So I'm very excited. 5 stars for sure. And I'm giving the second book 5 stars already too. That's a little preview for next year's book review. Next book is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr or Dewar. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry. I give this 3 stars. I don't want to sound like a dud, like talking down on this, because I do honestly think I just was not in the space for such a literary book. Like, it's very, very dense, and it kind of took me back to when I was younger and I would read and I don't know what I just read. Like, it was very much like that. Like, I'd read a paragraph and it'd be like, wait, I need to read that again because I don't know what just happened. I don't know. I wasn't super into it. It took me a while to read. It's definitely an objectively good book. It is a Pulitzer Prize winner, so I am not going to say anything too crazy about it, but sometimes, like, I don't want a Pulitzer Prize winner book. I want to just read something that I will enjoy. You know what I mean? It's about a blind French girl and a German orphan boy whose paths collide in occupied France during World War II. It's described as a story about courage and hope in a world tainted by war, death, and loss. So, you know, I'm not gonna say too much more about it because I, fully did not understand it. I had to read an explanation online about it because I was a bit confused. They spoke very whimsically in metaphors, and it was just kind of hard for me to understand. So I'm a dud, I'll admit it. I know I'm the problem. I'm the problem here, not the book. So, okay, and after I read that, I was like, I need something lighthearted and cute and maybe a little festive because at this point we're in December. I wanted to read something Christmassy, and I decided to pick up Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. This is my worst rated book of the year. I gave it 1 star, you guys. I'm almost certain that she wrote this in 1 afternoon. Like, I am not kidding you. It was so short, so stupid. I'm sorry. Tessa Bailey, you've taken advantage of my patience for the last time. There's an element of these kinds of cringy love story books, rom-coms, what have you, that you go into it with a certain expectation. Like, I am not going into this thinking it's going to be a Pulitzer Prize winner. I'm going to it for a certain kind of feeling. I want to read it because it's an easy read, it's romantic, it's light and fluffy, and it's good, so that's what I look for. It's it's the same kind of thing with shows. Like, you watch a sitcom to feel a certain thing, and then you watch a dramatic, intense show to feel something else. You don't go into the sitcom expecting to see something super intense. You want something, it's like comfort. So I wanted something like that, something easy to read, and it definitely was an easy read. I read it in a day, and I think that's why I finished it, because I was like, I could read this in 1 afternoon. I was just, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. It's cheesy, cringy, stupid. Just don't waste your time. Yeah, no, don't add it to your list. That book really didn't satisfy my itch for a cute rom-com. I picked something else up from my to-read list that I heard about on a podcast. It's called A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. And I gave it 4 stars. So obviously, like I said, you go into it with different expectations. My 4 stars of a rom-com is very different from my 4 stars of Daisy Jones and the Six. They're not the same, okay? This is 4 stars on the spectrum of a romance novel. So I really enjoyed this. I do think the flaw in the book is that the main guy is a billionaire. Okay, he could have been a multimillionaire at the most. We don't need him to be a billionaire. There's only so many billionaires in the world. We don't need to I can suspend disbelief for only so long, that element I had to kind of ignore. I'm like, I will let this one go, So he needs a date for this deal he's gonna close. She pretends to be his date. They don't really like each other, but then of course, feelings start to develop the more time they spend together, and it's really cute. I actually really liked it, and it's an easy read. I would recommend it. It was on Kindle Unlimited too, which is always nice. I followed that up with the sequel because I really enjoyed it and I read it really quick, so I'm like, let's go. This is also the last week of the year, which is when I like to read a lot of books and read a lot of easy reads just to end the year in kind of a mindless way. And so the sequel is about her sister, and Oh man, I'm so aggressive with this rating. I gave it 2 stars. So this one's called So Not Meant to Be. I gave it 2 stars compared to the previous one that was 4 stars, which is a huge jump. I thought this one was so cringy and it just did not follow up with the first one for me. I didn't like the characters as much as I liked the characters in the first one. It was still cute and like easy enough, but like it was cheesy. Okay, so yeah, these books are very spicy, is what everyone calls them, smut, like I said. And this one was just a little silly. It was silly, that's all I'll say. And the third book to the series, I guess, is coming out this month randomly. I don't know if I'm gonna read it. It's about the other brother, which is crazy. There's 3 brothers, so each brother has their own book, but I don't know. So yeah, we'll see. But one thing I wanted to say about this book, like one of the worst things about it was that the main character had a podcast. Why the podcast? Like there'd be a chapter of like the podcast episode. I honestly didn't read them because they were so irrelevant to the story and it was just like filler and so cringy. Like, not the podcast, like get out of here with that. So anyways, on to my last book of the year. We're ending kind of on an uneventful note because this is a 3-star for me. It's called In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle. So same author as One Italian Summer. I went into this thinking I was gonna have another 5 stars on my hands because I really loved her last book that I read. But I didn't really enjoy this. It wasn't what I was expecting and not what I thought it was marketed as at all. I thought it was gonna be more of a love story, you know, even maybe a self-discovery. I don't know. It just wasn't what I expected. I also found the subject matter to be a bit triggering for me personally, and someone else said the same thing in the book club. So I know it wasn't just me, but I do know people love this book too. Like it's a very like highly regarded Rebecca Searle book. I think it might be one of her more popular ones. But if I were to recommend a Rebecca Searle book to you, it would be One Italian Summer, obviously. So that's a 3-star book for me to end the year, but it's fine because I'm starting the year with a 5-star. But you'll have to wait till next year to hear more about that, even though I already talked about it. Those are the 25 books I read in 2022. I do want to just share my top 3, even though you guys can probably guess by my recaps. My top 3 books that I would recommend to you guys 100%. So I'm going to start with the 3rd book. The 3rd book would be The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I adore this book. Like I said, it's stuck with me. I feel like I find myself thinking about it. I really like the message behind it, and I just think it's a good book for everybody to read. And then book number 2 is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. Shocker. I adore this book, and it's just one of those that just came at the perfect time in my life, and it's something I really needed. So I think that's why I look at it so fondly too. But the setting and everything, it was a dream. And then number 1 is Carrie Soto Is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like I said, I was so enthralled with this book. Perfect too because it just came out in 2022 as well. So it's a newer read, so I'm assuming a lot of people haven't read it. So I would definitely recommend it to all of you guys. Taylor Jenkins Reid, if you guys have not read any of her books, like treat yourself. But I do want to share a few honorable mentions because it just doesn't feel right to leave them in the dust. The first one is A Court of Thorn and Roses. Obviously, I'm obsessed. I'm fully invested in living in that world right now. Love the characters, love the story, and so excited for the journey that I'm on because I'm just so enjoying it. And my second honorable mention has to be Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. Incredible book. Add it to your to-read list. Wait for the summertime so that the vibes are like on point because it's just the best summer read ever, and I can't recommend it more. So those are all the books. If you guys have any that you want to recommend to me after hearing what I like to read, I am so open to recommendations. I'm so open to adding more books to my to-read shelf on Goodreads. And also, if you've read any of these books and you want to share your rating and what you thought, it'd be so interesting to chat with you guys because that's what I like about the book club, is hearing everyone else's opinion. It's like just goes to show you how extremely personal books are, and there's different reasons people connect with different topics, and it's just really fun to chat about. So let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.